Kimothy, I did a thing this weekend.
What'd you do?
I got out the Christmas stuff and I put up the tree and I did the garland and I said, to hell with it. I don't care what time of year it is because
You rebel. You're a rebel.
I am. And actually, some other people went first. And I was like, thank you for posting on Facebook. And now I feel free to just do it. Hello, buddy. And so even I did the decorations. And ever since we got the toxic mold poisoning we got a number of years ago, we've stopped bringing in real trees because of the spores, which
Really?
is very sad. We just didn't want to take any extra chances. And so we got a fake tree, which is it's a good looking fake tree, but if you got a fake tree, that means you can put it up whenever you want. So that's what I did.
So I'll tell you what my dad used to do.
Tell me.
He used to put the fake tree wrapped in a sheet in the basement, still standing all year long. So all he would have to do, we would take the decorations off, but he just wrapped it in a sheet so that he didn't have to assemble it again.
Lots of people I know actually use their trees year round at this point. They do like Valentine's Day and Easter. I'm not into that, but a
Yeah.
lot of people do that. They leave it up. It's like some people have like tall, skinny trees or whatever. Some people have like four trees. One of Mike's colleagues was like, "This is one of our four trees," and we're like, "No, that's way too many trees for us. One's good. It gives me the holiday cheer, gets the fireplace going. It's a whole thing, but that's all I need
My aunt's friend in Florida had 17 trees
in a house."
in a fairly large house, but she created a forest inside and each had its own theme. There was a peacock tree and a flamingo tree and a traditional tree. And I mean, she's older now, so she only does one. But in her heyday, and then she would have parties in her inside forest. Uh,
That's
I
too
was
much
the
work.
I was the person that loved cleaning up Christmas so that everything was back to like being less
Well,
crowded. I found it very overwhelming to, and I would put it up around the 9th of December. And yeah, I just found once everything was clean again and packed up in boxes, it was like, oh,
yeah. See, 17 trees is too much to
too much.
coordinate for me, and it brings too many people near me. So that's out of the question. No party in there. Mike is not impressed. Mike does not like that we set up so early, and I was like, I've had a year, and I'm gonna have a Christmas tree now. So he was fine with it, but it had a little convincing, but it's a little easier when you have a fake tree. So.
Yeah. I haven't had a real tree in years and years because I couldn't deal with I always put the place to water it accidentally. I would forget every year, I would forget, and it would be at the back behind all of the presents. And so I would then kind of neglect watering the tree. And then I had pine needles all over my house. So
And then you had a Charlie Brown Christmas tree on Christmas.
I had a Charlie. Actually, I did buy one of those one year for my daughter, like one of the little ones that you can get at the store that has like two twigs and one red Christmas ball. And she kept it in her room. She quite liked that Charlie Brown Christmas tree. But I am in Courtney, BC, and it's not looking a lot like Christmas here. It's well, it was chilly last night. It was 3 degrees, but no snow. People out walking along the water this morning. I saw seals, but I didn't see whales, and they said that there's often sightings, so I might go back. But it's not looking like Christmas.
Well,
Nothing about this. No.
it is what it is. I only celebrate in a very like high level way of Christmas. Like I just like the lights and the warmth and the, whatever. But yeah, when you got a 7-year-old, you got to bring it all together. Santa's got to come somewhere. So who are we
Yep.
talking to today?
I just heard who are we talking to today because I was in the middle of saying something that then I forgot what I was going to say. Laurel Gillespie, a regular contributor to our world and one of the original planners to help us set up this podcast. And we're going to talk about a few things. One of which is why only 5% of Canadian CEOs are women, and she is one. And we're going to talk about why she's half naked in a poster.
Sounds like a good time. All
Body
right.
positive.
Let's bring her in.
So, Amy, I was on Facebook and I saw our friend Laurel Gillespie in a slightly provocative photo.
I saw
And
it.
I know there's a serious side to this because we're talking about breast cancer and mental health that Laurel experienced surviving breast cancer. But, Laurel, why don't you tell us a little bit about the photograph?
Oh my goodness. So, yeah, that was a bit of a, oh my gosh, do I actually do this or not? But I think it's important to really be real about what it's like. And this was a suggestion of my oldest sister, actually, that when I was first diagnosed, my kids had no idea until the night before my surgery. But I went to a great photographer, Phil Potter, in the Greeley area, and he did a few shots of me, nothing exposed, but just it was a way of mentally wrapping my head around what was going to be happening to me physically, mentally, emotionally. And that was a very sad picture for me because I knew that I was losing my breasts, but if I kept them, they were going to kill me. So I was very, very sick, but it was a way of me going through a process of honoring my body the way it was before cancer and then embracing those changes and coming out on the other side okay.
So this it's a contest, I think, but it's an
Oh, yes,
educational thing,
sorry. Yes.
and you're competing for best photo, and I will describe it in that you're looking over your shoulder and your hands are strategically placed on the things that were trying to kill you. And why did you decide to go public with this? I understand having the photo taken, but you're doing it all over the Facebook.
I'm not afraid of it, Kimothy, because I think this is one of the things we keep it behind a curtain. And it's not a provocative picture. It's a real picture of a very dark and challenging time. I was 38. I had three young children. I was a military wife. I had no family here. Um, but this contest thing, it was like somebody, a friend of mine said, why don't you put your name for it? And I was like, okay, yeah, well, there's a $40,000 prize at the end. Who couldn't use that? But it was more about an opportunity to really uplift women, and it's to raise money for breast cancer research and for supports for women as they go through treatment and beyond. And I thought if there's one way of sharing my own personal story of how I'm fabulous over 40 and come out the other side and my power era after my cancer journey, I would be willing to share that to uplift and support other women who may be going through some of the similar challenges that I went through as a young mom.
That's amazing. And before we get to other stuff, just if people haven't seen previous episodes with you, you beat it and you're thriving. Can you just tell us about that journey a little bit?
Well, actually, very interestingly that you asked that, Timothy, because during that time, I actually became to learn and understand that I had been in a relationship for a very long time with someone who was very controlling and didn't really embrace what I was going through. So I didn't really have the support of my spouse. And that did end up 7 years after my cancer, my initial surgery, leaving him 6 years actually, because it just became unbearable. But with my cancer journey coming back on the other side, I decided after being a military wife for 22 years and putting my career and things on the back burner, I went back to school. And this is when I say it was my power era because as a single mom, I went and got my MBA and I'm very grateful. It was very difficult and hard work, but I decided that if I'm going to continue on, and I've been given this second chance to kick the can, if you will, I want to make that something that I can have some social impact on and try to make changes, even if what I'm doing only impacts one woman or uplifts them enough to want to come out or do things that they never thought they were capable of. Go for it. Because it's
Mm,
so amazing on the other side, right? It's so amazing.
that's awesome. And that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, right, Amy?
It is. We are going to dive deep. Are you ready? Kim's got stats here for me. I'm going to look at them while I talk.
I
So,
like.
we're looking at the Canadian marketplace of CEOs, right? And the percentage of women still lags behind quite significantly. So the stats that Kim found, which are really interesting, is that in recent years, data from the Canadian Securities and other reports indicate that women hold around 5% of the CEO positions in public companies, and some report as low as 4%. And despite increases in the number of women in corporate like jobs or sorry, corporate boards, the number doesn't really keep pace. So you're a CEO, you're a woman. What did like just off the bat, like what does that say to you? Like what are your thoughts on that?
It's real, but I also work in not for profit, not the profits private side. So I think that's even maybe a little bit more difficult because in not for profit sector, it is still predominantly women. It's, sort of that caring side of the economy.
Yeah.
Some of the reasons why I think more women CEOs or women C-suite positions are not promoted is that men are predominantly, I think, chosen or selected by hiring committees based on their potential and leadership, right? Men need to be able to lead. They need to be tough. They need to, they exhibit this a different persona in that C-suite arena that just usually predominantly men. So you're trying to break down those barriers and move in. Where women are promoted at that level, in my opinion, purely based on performance. And there's sort of that glass cliff where an organization will often, I'm speculating. I don't have facts and figures to back this up, but my own experience is I think that women are only based on their performance measurements and being overqualified sometimes for the job in comparison to a male. And that they'll often bring a woman in when the organization is in trouble, have the woman come in and fix everything, and then go, oh, yeah, okay, well, things didn't quite work out, so we're going to blame it because we hired a woman. And I think there's this mentality that, although the numbers are not increasing, I think strong women leaders are making gains. And I'm very hopeful that at some point, we're hopefully in our lifetime that we're going to see that tipping point of where we go back to more of a matriarchal era where women do go through that shift of showing that we are just as capable. But for the love of God, like, please try to also recognize the other multiple tasks that we're also bearing on our shoulders, right? And I guess maybe we can get into that a little bit later, but I think it ties in quite nicely. Some of the expectations that women still have that we carry all of the water for.
Well, I wanted to ask both of you because both of you have educated me on being sandwiched as well, and the amount statistically that is proven that women carry the younger generation and the older generation at a disproportionate percentage. And that can clearly impact career trajectories. And even in my lifetime, I think I'm the oldest one here. My pregnancy, hiring a woman reporter in a 90s newsroom was not ideal because they knew that eventually, and this happened, you go on maternity leave. Now, I only had 4 months maternity leave because this is before Canada decided that it was an important thing to invest in women. But for both of you, the extra load that we carry, I am just assuming makes it extra difficult to move through the ranks.
Amy, do you want to address that first? But I would agree, concur 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And I also feel like to a certain extent, when we're trying to get up to those C-suite positions, it's not even like most of the things that we deal with are in private life, right? Like there's work, but there's definitely private life stuff that unless you knew that person enough, you wouldn't actually probably know because we can hold our shit together pretty good, most of us, right? And like until we get to certain points, right? And then it is what it is. But when we're looking to advance, I would suggest that the people that are in hiring in those positions for the C-suite and they're looking at men and women, I think it's more of an assumption. Again, I don't have the stats for this, but in conversation, I feel like it's more of an assumption that we are or will be dealing with stuff that might take us away or function us different in the workplace. It doesn't mean we're not going to get it done. It just means we might have to work at it a different way, which, it is what it is. And a lot of the women I know are perfectly capable and comfortable of retweaking what their work experience looks like to fit in all the extra things. I think that it's a lot of expectation that that's going to happen or something like that's going to happen. So let's just like not have it happen instead of working with what it is and working with the most successful candidate, regardless of male or female or other, and letting us, rise how we rise. And if we have to deal with something, the men are dealing with stuff too, but it's in different ways. And sometimes it's through the women in their life. So it's an interesting thing that I just feel like a lot of it's just assumption.
Mm. I wouldn't say that it's assumption. I mean, I do live it sort of every day. I think women bring to the table this level of plasticity that we're constantly, as females, our bodies, as we, bear children and we grow and we go through significant physiological changes. Don't even get me started on the menopause thing, however. um, we're always having to shift and pivot and morph and balance and be like sort of plastic, like the
Mm,
plasticity there and the flexibility. So I think we're actually better equipped to come into some of these leading roles in operations, profit and loss, where traditionally women get stuck in those, not that they're not important, like the HR, more the admin side. Which are important roles, but not often those ones that men seem to get into that bucket, which lead to the CEO job one day. But I think with juggling everything, it makes me think of a few things, Amy, is that we are, by just nature, expected to be the ones to nurture and do that caregiving. I'm happy to say that I know a number of men who've stepped into that caregiving role, and wanting to see more of that. I think, though, we're not going to see a significant amount of change until we start putting women in the positions that can have stronger influence and impact at the government level to lead the path to show that
yeah.
when we support our women, we have better outcomes. And I think I do believe that that's true. But if we don't start electing women into these roles to shape the policy around us, I mean, just look at what's happening geopolitically around the world. Our female rights are slipping away, and I find that terrifying. So we're kind of moving in the wrong direction. I am hopeful, though, that Canada is going to start stepping up to the plate, with the daycare program still being coveted and protected so that women have that opportunity to take their maternity leave, as Kimothy mentioned, in a safe and secure way. And that's honored and accepted as this is just part of the normal trajectory of a woman moving through her career. And it's not, you shouldn't be ever penalized by that. So I think until we see a modicum of equalization within elected officials, that will have an impact on the policies that will help shape it for future generations to come that really walk the talk when it comes to putting women in more progressive leadership roles, is to trust that our intuition and just as we are as people, as the female roles that we carry, that we're more than capable of doing it. And we can do it exceedingly well and work together in a very calm and peaceful way without knocking down other people. And it's about building support up for one another. So I'm hopeful for the future, but when you say it's difficult and we get penalized, I absolutely agree with that. Just as
Well, the
Kimothy
other
said, like, yeah.
that I wanted to ask too is because this is a show about women's mental health, produced by women for women and the people who love them. Uh, I fell on my face hard when I was trying to keep the company going. My dad died. My mother had two heart attacks. I was, moving a child to another city to go to university. I was a single parent. She had been my best friend for, most of her older years. I was the boss in the younger years, as she likes to say. But when I fell on my face and really struggled with mental health, I found that there were people in my life who just wanted to look away. And then they would tell me privately that they too had struggled with mental health issues and depression. But publicly, there was still a huge shame factor in the fact that I was really struggling to keep it all together. I mean, also, I had a marriage that was failing at the same time, which I'm sure that I contributed to with all of this other shit that I was going through. So, do we judge women who struggle more harshly, or are men just better at hiding their mental challenges? Which, I think some of the men I know, they're very good at hiding it, but they will talk privately. But I find that while we talk about, supporting mental health and, as a movement, I did not experience that in a broader circle, just my close, intimate friends like you guys who were there and were champions in that. I think it's a bit of bullshittery that, yay, mental health until you fall on your face.
Mhm.
And then we
I
don't
would
we don't really want to hang out with you anymore.
I
It
would
is. And
say
oh, sorry, go ahead, Amy.
I was just gonna say, like on my experience, I would tell you, uh, again, besides very close people, it's sort of disappointing how you can be struggling so much. And
Yeah.
like for me, it's like I'm not necessarily advertising it, but like there's a hint of it. And like if people were paying attention, you would see it. You could be struggling so significantly that like it's shocking to me that like no one reaches out. No one is like looking to help. No one is inquiring about if you're okay. It's just like unless you're in their face saying, this is what I need. These are the exact steps that I need you to take. People don't know what to do. It's kind of like grief. It's kind of in the same thing. It's like we don't deal with grief in the society very well. We've talked about it in other podcasts, and it's really not offensive to people, but it's just like, I'm not going to touch that. Like they could know you're struggling, but they're not going to like, they've got stuff too, right? And it's like, it's hard. Like it's just, you really, when you're struggling, you really feel like you're kind of out there alone. And I mean, to your point, like all of us have dealt with that stuff. And it's shocking. It was a bit of an eye opener, going through some of the stuff I'm going through, just to see like where the hell's the community? Like where, you know, I expect people to treat me the way I treat people, which is like I try to help and jump in and I offer and all this stuff. Maybe not 100%, but I do my best. But it's not there, and it's just like really, really surprising to me as I'm going through my stuff at the moment too.
But Laurel, is that also because the two of you are seen as, they're highly competent, they'll figure it out? What could I possibly offer to this conversation?
We're
And
tough as shit.
maybe this is what our podcast can do,
Yeah.
is reach out, ask some questions. Don't be accusatory in the, you don't seem to be doing well. Well,
Yeah.
that's not helpful. So, Laurel, like, what should we be doing, and how do we support others who are perceived to be super achievers? Let's face it, like the three of us are all pretty high performing individuals, and maybe people don't think that we need help. I don't know. I'm asking Laurel.
You guys have raised so many good little points. I took a couple notes to try to bring them up. I think, okay, so first of all, I think masking, you brought that up. For those of us who are a bit of the overachievers, the eager beavers, um, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be high performers because we want to do well generally. Maybe that has something to do with our childhood upbringings. I don't know, but masking, we're able to mask very well. Um, the the point about women being able to juggle everything, um, and not really showing up for one another starts here. Like it starts with us having these conversations, like putting that picture out there. Yeah, I was about to lose my breast, but I was going to get through that, but I was mentally preparing myself for it. When it comes to this, though, when you're struggling with a mental health, it's very internal. Nobody really knows what you are feeling on the inside. So I'm going to, be very open and vulnerable and honest about this because I'm not ashamed of it. I also suffer from depression. and it hits you and it hits you hard. But we're so used to molding and reshaping ourselves into something else so that we can just get through it. But we never really talk about our struggles. And I often think because we don't want to be a burden to someone else, we're the ones who jump in and save the day. But I asked myself, like, Amy, I want to acknowledge that, yeah, both of you are kind of going through it right now, right? But who's looking after the Amys of the world? Who's looking after the Kimothys of the world and doing those check-ins? And then as a woman in a leadership role, I have had to take some time off because I was burnt out. But my burnout is caused not necessarily from just my leadership role, but it's has to do with all of the other things that are happening in my life that I can't balance it all. And so what do I have to give up in order to deal with what I've got on my mental health load over here and my career over here? Okay, so I got to step down on the career for right now, pump the brake on this over here because I'm trying to take care of myself, which I am a really terrible person at trying to do the self-care thing. I'm sure you guys probably struggle with it too, to a certain degree. We're always the last ones that we feed back into our own souls. Right. And this has been something I've been learning about while I've been off. And I'm happy to say I'm going back, but I've been juggling all these family issues and two older senior sisters and, my own children and that kind of thing. But it was like, okay, something's gotta give here. And I can't keep doing all of this because family comes first and perform to this caliber. So I have to protect my own well-being, but at the same time, I worry about those other women in leadership roles like yourself, Amy and Kimothy, that who's checking in on you? And who do we feel safe enough? But the conversation starts here, right? So we can help others who are dealing with the same thing and not be afraid of it or ashamed.
There's so much that's important in what you just said. So much. And and I'll throw it back to Amy, but I have here on my, because I think everybody knows by now that I travel full time in my car after a car accident. I have, Laurel, the brooch that you gave me here, the one that represented the company that I was struggling to keep alive. The tiger lily brooch is right here and there. But I will say, God, one of us always cries in an episode, but I will say that the two of you are representative of the people that showed up for me um, when I started living in my car. There were some people who wanted to look away from that shit, like seriously wanted to look away from it. And there are others who surprised me, some who left, but there were some who I wasn't particularly close to then, but then became really, really important to my life when they showed up. And many of them, like the two of you, showed up with, listen, I've had my own mental health challenges, and I think something's going on here that I can maybe help. And so I got kind of, they were friends, but they became closer to me by simply saying, what do you need? I'm here to listen. I come to this with some experience about feeling very alone in a difficult time. And so I just want to thank the two of you.
I had that. I mean, you're welcome. Also, I had that happen too, right? I had a colleague catch something. I don't put a lot on Facebook, but every once in a while I lose my shit and I put something on Facebook.
Don't we all?
And not like anything ridiculous, but just like you're just not coping well, right? And you're like, why isn't anybody seeing me, right? And it's like, but I had a colleague reach out to me privately, and it's because she had that experience. She knew. She could tell by some of the words that I was using that she had had that experience, and she reached out to me privately, and we formed a bit of a friendship. And it's just, basically like, whatever you need, just text me, right? And I felt, to your point, like that was so interesting and important to me because it was someone that I hadn't really talked a lot to. She's in my circle of people. Um, but I think that, like, mental health and physical health and all the stuff is like this huge vat of stuff. And if you're going through something particular, if if you can't articulate what you're going through, even on Facebook, let's just use that as an example, right? If you can't articulate it in a way which the three of us can articulate. But one, you have to articulate it properly so people understand what it is that you're dealing with. And two, then you have to align with people that actually have had that experience, because people who haven't had that experience don't know how to help whatsoever, right? And so my bubble, I can talk personally, my bubble of people that can actually help in any capacity is like extremely small, right? And like you start talking about it with like old friends or whatever, and they're just like shocked of the things that are going on. And they lend their support, like I'm here if you need anything, but yeah, and they're great people. But at some point you kind of just feel like you're talking to more of a wall because they don't understand enough, right? So I've said to Mike and I've said to one of my other friends multiple times, you are, I understand that you're there. I understand that if I need help, I can reach out. It's different though, because they're not coming after me to help. It's like there. But I said, like, I'm very happy and you're very fortunate that you have not had to deal with this situation. So I understand that you don't know what tools to use because you've never dealt with it. You have no idea, no context. And I can talk to I'm blue in the face and they can sympathize and they can empathize, but it's different. Like when Kim, when I talk to you, you have this general understanding that I don't have to explain all the other shit, right? And it's like you just come at a general understanding, and I said, "Oh yeah, this happened today," or this whatever. But you understand the context of what I'm dealing with. A lot of people don't understand that context, which means that a lot of people don't reach out, or they say like, "Hope you're doing better," or whatever, because they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
This can I just weigh in for just two
Yeah.
seconds here? Is that and thanks for sharing that, Timothy. I have a philosophy and ethos that I try to live by, and that is surround yourself with really good people who do get it. And when you say, yeah, today is an awful day, they know it's a really shitty day, right? Like when I share some of my personal experiences, people are like, oh my God, and you're still standing. It's like, yeah, I can't make this shit up. I can't make it up. But one of the beautiful gifts I think that we have as strong women for generations to come, for our daughters, our sisters, our neighbors, like you name it, nieces, whatever, is knowledge is power. But knowledge only transcends into something powerful when it becomes wisdom. And I think as strong women who've been through it, we've been through the ringer, we've come out the other side. Um, in that, so my ethos of being like sharing the knowledge and the experiences that, yeah, it was tough, it was hell, but if I don't share it with anybody, then change will never happen. And other women will never learn from our naivety, being naive when it comes to how to handling certain challenges that life thrusts at us. So I think knowledge becomes powerful when we share it. And when we share it, that knowledge translates into wisdom. Wisdom that we, I think, as women have a responsibility to our future generations to share that knowledge and wisdom so that they won't have to struggle maybe as hard as we did. Right. And that to me is the real progression when it comes to mental health. And I will touch upon, something that I think when we're talking about mental health and as a whole and about women and the struggles, like who knows what's happening behind closed doors, right? I'll talk about the mental health piece and the rise of femicide and domestic violence. Well, why are we not looking at the men's mental health and supporting them up front before they get to that point? Like there's a reason behind every behavior, but we're not doing anything to address the reasons behind their behavior that would cause them to carry out abuse and then, the femicide thing. So we kind of look at it a little bit backwards. And I'm hopeful that in Canada, we'll follow suit with countries like the UK who have laws around coercive control and whatnot that we also have to face in our challenges. But if we don't speak up about these things, then we never get to share that knowledge that turns into power and wisdom that's carried on for generations to come. And I feel like we have a moral imperative to share that knowledge and wisdom.
And I'll out the um issue in the room is as three CEOs, I will speak for me. I was ashamed that I was the victim of a narcissist. Two, actually, because I was supposed to be smarter. I was supposed to be the person that would not get emotionally abused. And so I felt like a failure, and it was Um, because I let it go on. I mean, my mother was one, so I let it go on for a really long time. And I thought, I'm supposed to be smarter than this. And so for me, the mental health piece, a lot was feeling like a failure. I'm supposed to know better. I'm supposed to be smarter.
I would
And
suggest, sorry, I was gonna say, I
but
agree. Like, I would suggest that some of my story is that similar. Like, should I have done something else? Should I have done more? Why didn't I know that? I don't know that I was ashamed or that type of uh, like that type of feeling. It probably was a little bit. I just think that, like, to your point, like, we're high achievers. So we expect that we should be doing things in a certain way. And when the wool's pulled over our eyes or when something happens unexpectedly, you're just like, what the F? Like, how did I not see that? And I think that's where we get to. And then to Laurel's point earlier, like, our whole system is reactive, right? Like, to the point about in femicide, the men's mental health not being addressed before that, right? And it's like our whole system is reactive. And I see it every day in my work in elder care. It's like being proactive is just not a thing that we do, and it's scary. And so everybody's just in this reactive state all the time, even when Kim, like, even when you're saying that, when I'm saying that, it's like we're reacting now to like what has happened to us. And I don't know about you, but like, I don't
yeah,
like to be in a reactive state. Like, I teach
no,
proactivity, right? And
no.
that's, we're very prepared as people, right? And it's like to have to like switch it to like we're reacting to something that's happened to us or something that we're going through unexpectedly is against our whole grain of being a person. It's
Yeah,
very
it
off.
feels really awful when you don't have control over these circumstances, when you think I should have this down pat.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Right?
bring it back to, though, it comes back to us. We look internally to say, like, well, why did this happen? I should have known better, or I didn't see it coming. But that's all part of our evolution of life, right?
Yeah.
Life's not one smooth, nice highway. It's full of bumps and speed bumps and cliffs, and you deal with it. But sharing that, Amy, but we always put ourselves last. It's like, okay, so why didn't I see that? We internalize it as a self issue, and it's flipping that script that it's not me, it's them. Or it's that, it's not me, I'm okay and I'm doing this. But if we don't talk about these things and we don't share, you know, you both shared like something very personal about our relationships with narcissism and how we struggle with that. We don't know what other people are going through, but if we don't talk about them openly, that matters. And I think one of the key points in that is language matters. Use the appropriate language and stop dancing around the real issue, right? Whatever it is in life, the challenge, like talk about, use the words. I have depression. And that's okay. Like if I had diabetes, nobody would question it, right? It's the same thing. Um, was another example. I'm sorry, I'm going blank. Thank you, chemo brain
No,
and a bit of menopause in there. But yeah, we have to be able to share with one another on that intimate level. And if what we're doing helps others that are coming up the ranks behind us, then that's amazing. That's so powerful. So I want to thank you
well,
guys for that.
yeah. And so maybe the question is if we could give advice, having been on the receiving end of some challenging things, what would you both have wanted to hear from the people closest to you? I know some of mine just ran away, but um, I have some ideas, but I'd like to know from the two of you what would have been helpful because I was on kind of the receiving end of accusatory stuff. You're not doing this, you're not doing that. What would have been helpful in your situations? Amy, you mentioned the friend that reached out to you, but I'm curious what information we could give to our viewers and listeners that would be helpful.
I think that one of my bigger things is to know that people see me, is to know, and I wouldn't have known to say this until this very second, right? So I think that, like, in the estrangement narcissism world, where you've got people actively slandering you and actively like the reputation that I have built is solid and that's in me, but then you've got all the other people that have been affected in this world of what I'm living in that are just like saying whatever they want, right? And it would have been important to me even now for people to be able to say like I see you, I know who you are, right? It's hard to say, how can I help? Because I don't know what the hell they can do. But it's more important to me that people are would reach out to say, like, I actually know who you are as a human. This is shit. I'm sorry you're going through it. I see you as a human because when you're stripped away, when this stuff type, this, I can only speak from my own experience, when this type of stuff happens, that's one of the top things on my list. It's like I've worked my entire career and my entire life to establish, and then all of a sudden I got people talking smack about me everywhere, right? And it's like, what do I do with that? Like, do the people that know me think that way? Like, that's what would have been important, I think, is for people to be like, no, I know who you are. I see you.
Yeah.
This is shit.
To me,
Yep.
it's like the Mel Robbins and the Brene Browns of the world that have kind of opened that up to, let them, Amy, let
Yeah.
them.
Just let them.
Internally,
Yeah.
I am a good person and I'm dealing with all of these things and don't doubt yourself. But it's really difficult to do when you're an overachiever or you have high self-expectations because we're capable, right?
And and not to, well, I am going to add some levity to the conversation, but I'm fully prepared to say my first narcissist was my mother. You both might find the comedic value in this. I actually 2 days ago had a conversation with a family member that I hardly know, not through anything bad. We just lived in opposite parts of the world, where I had to say, just so you know, I was not a prostitute. Oh,
I
yeah.
feel that. I feel that, right?
Yeah.
Just so you know, I
Just
didn't
so you
actually
know,
do this.
I was not a prostitute who had lovely men paying for my beautiful house in downtown Ottawa. And so, you know, that kind of wackadoodle stuff is, and because he asked me outright, like, what happened with my mother, and we don't have shows long enough for that, but I actually had to say out loud with a perfectly straight face to this person who hardly knows me, because you both would laugh about, like, where did you find time to be a prostitute? But I had to, like, say, just so you know, I was not a prostitute and men did not pay for my really nice houses. I did that through my hard work,
Hmm.
you know,
Isn't that
and
crazy?
and
Oh,
yeah, well, yeah, it is. And um, what where I'm kind of going with this is that when you find your people, like the two of you have been to me, the two of you get it, right? It's like, of course that happened to you. Of course, narcissism is what it is. Um, but there's a positive side, I think, in that you find out who your people are pretty quick.
I was going to say that. It's one of the little notes that I jotted down
Yeah,
was that you've got to surround yourself with the people who
yeah,
are supportive and create your boundaries, put those walls up for those who don't, because you don't have time for that shit. I don't have
yeah,
time to explain something again and again and again, and they still dismiss it.
yeah,
So it's like, the cliches of find your tribe, which is really insulting, find your clan. But
yeah.
when you
Your people.
surround yourself with people who do get it, or who at least acknowledge the challenges, the trials and tribulations of a really messy life, um, that you just surround, like we've surrounded ourselves with people who support it. I know I can check in with you and say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. How's it going? That's all it takes for somebody to just
Yeah,
feel like, oh, those are my peeps. Those are my people, my chosen
yeah,
family.
The other day,
yeah, yeah,
Kim just texted me. She's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, are you?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Okay."
No.
Like that's all.
and
I like she has the context, right? And it's like, no, it's appreciate it. You want to talk later? Like it's just that, like the
yeah,
notice of you not responding or being around or doing something. It's not the she's not responding, so I'm not going to talk to her. It's the No, no, she normally does respond. So what's up, right?
It's checking
Yeah.
in with one another because we know that we're probably
Yeah.
dealing with it yet again, right? Because it's what we
And
do. We're strong empaths, and those that are not less or who are less empathetic, yeah, feed off of us. We give them their power, right? So you got to be, it's a careful fine line, it's a dance, but that
yeah,
intersects through so many different layers of our lives, right?
but I do find, to kind of bring us a little bit full circle, is when you are the CEO of an organization and in a leadership role through much of your life, these are important lessons because then you learn to look for it in the people that you work with and that in some cases you supervise, is to look for those things. And like one of the things I pride myself on is a lot of the students that I trained, journalism students over 25 years, um, I am still connected to because they were struggling. I'd been to journalism school. It's brutal. It's hard. And then you're working at a TV station part-time and trying to, like, not get sued. And so I think that you mentioned empath. I think in the early days, even before I fell on my face, I was very open to, let's sit down and talk about how hard this is. Like, this is like going to medical school in cardiology. Like, but you're doing it on camera for the world to see. So I do think that there's an empath connection there as well, that you, um, even when you have fallen on your own face, you're very sensitive to the people around you, and the people that aren't part of that just sort of disappear into the ether over time.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's
Right.
okay. People come ebb and flow, right? Come
Yeah.
into our lives for a reason, I believe.
A reason or a
Yeah,
season,
Um,
isn't it?
Yeah. And I think
reason or
it's
season.
also, I think our energy is different, right? The energy that we give off. And some people maybe they just don't know how to take that when you've got a strong woman and they're like, oh, they kind of, if they're not of the same mind, they want to dance around it or find something to pick on you about. I don't like the word jealousy or envy, and but there are certain people who may feel that way towards a stronger person. So you've had that to deal with. And as an empath, it's like, well, why don't they like me? Well,
Yeah.
I don't give a flying whatever that they don't like me anymore because I like who I am. I like me as a person, and I know I'm trying to do the best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be good enough. And if it can pass my good enough test, then I'm doing okay. But it's coming to terms with those kinds of things as well. It's not you, it's them.
But yeah, and I love that concept because it's also sometimes I think if you knew what I had to do to survive and get here, if you knew about, my childhood and, all the like wackadoodle stuff that happened to me, you might make me head of your company.
Mhm.
Because,
Exactly.
you know, um, yeah, because, and as we started this conversation, about 5% of women in Canada are CEOs of major companies. If you knew the guts and grit that it took to just survive and thrive, you would want me running your company because I can get shit done, you
Yeah.
Mhm.
know? And those, I know people call them soft skills. I don't really like that term, but those skills are really important in business.
Hmm.
And women get underrated for that. It's like, oh, is she going to get
Absolutely.
pregnant and go off on mat leave 3 times and have 3 babies?
So what if
Sad.
she does?
What if she does?
Doesn't mean she's less capable, just means there might be a break in the employment, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with you. I don't like the wording of soft skills either. I think to your point, like we can get shit done. It's just that it might not look like the way that you've done it for however many years. It might I think there's a lot of value in having women in C-suite positions and leading. And to your point earlier, like I lead my team that way. I'm plugged in for the most part to as much as you can be. to my team. And when there's ebbs and flows, and when I can hear a crack in their voice, I'm asking them, right? Because we deal in emotion, right? Essentially, we deal in emotion all day long, and that's a higher stake than some other positions or other jobs where it's like we're dealing with people's emotions all the time in this really difficult situation. And so when I formed up my business, it was to make sure that the people that worked for me had a spot to land and
Feel
know that
safe.
like, yeah, they're safe. I can catch you. I understand what's happening. You have to have the experience to be able to do it though. And that's, why I think people are attracted to us and me as an employer as well. It's that, they've had other experiences sometimes at other different companies like ours, and it's just not the same because I lead differently.
Mhm. That's a really good point, Amy. It's yeah, you show up for your team and meet them where they're at. Support them before there's a problem. And when you notice something, the old adage, how can I help? No, Amy, I see that you're really struggling right now. How can I best support you? Does that mean we're going to go for a coffee this weekend? No, seriously, right? How can I support you?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
it mean just having somebody to talk to it about? Because it is lonely at the top, right? Nobody
Yeah.
wants to be the CEO's friend. And so you have to also dance that fine line, like how much do I give them? How much don't I like to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
So
It's hard to separate out from the caring aspect and the business running person, right? And maybe that's also what gets in our way sometimes and not in our way on our fault. I think that's like the perception of like it's difficult. That doesn't mean we can't do difficult things. It just means it's difficult, right? We've done a bunch of difficult things and this is just a different one. And I think that being plugged in as a leader to your team and the surrounding people, whether it's clients or whatever, I think it's, if you're plugged in, you're plugged in. And then people understand that and they come to you with more if they need it, right? And it ebbs and flows. And I think it just really comes down to the fact, to your point, like, let's just check in, like, how is the day? And then when I ask my people that, they know everything is open. Whatever you want to share with me, I got you.
One of the when you guys are talking, I was kind of laughing to myself a little bit because I remember checking in with one of my journalism students and my how times have changed. And the sentence was, okay, so let's sit down and talk about this because this was your first dead body. It was a crime scene and they were covering, and I
Yeah.
have been to many of them at this point, but that leaves a mark, right?
Yeah.
And, but, as a journalist, you were expected to, like, you just suck it up. It's a story, it's, whatever. And, this person is now a national reporter for a very respected newspaper. And, it was, let's sit down and talk about this. Seeing a crime scene is traumatizing. And
Mhm.
there's a whole other, and actually, Amy, maybe this is a show for another day, but journalists in the industry, as they age, are starting to come to the idea that our mental health was under attack every single day, sitting through court testimony about, people being tortured. But it was just like, that's your job. And similar to the two of you, one dealing with palliative care and one dealing with what seniors and families need to do. It's every single day in those jobs, you're dealing with highly emotional stuff. It's not like you're, doing accounting, which our friend Margaret, who's been on this show, might say is stressful as well, of course, but it's emotionally draining shit.
Well, and Laura was talking about putting like essentially labeling it and calling it what it is, which is like a big thing for me at this point
trauma,
because I have
trauma,
to at this point.
Trauma.
But it's trauma,
trauma.
but it's compassion
Yeah.
fatigue as well. Like
Yeah.
our team is just like we talk about burnout, which is there, like caregiver burnout and stuff, but it's compassion fatigue that is like the offspray of all of it. And people sometimes can't get their head around it of like,
Yeah.
what's happening? Am I burnt out? Maybe. but also compassion fatigue's a thing. So it's like, let's look at what that looks like and like handle that situation. So
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
Whereas
And
people who don't get it perceive that as you being selfish, right? When you recognize that, yeah, maybe I have some compassion fatigue. I did want to point, like when Kimothy was describing, like just having to just move through those very traumatic events as a journalist. Part of the mentality is, and given that it was just Remembrance Day for all of those who've served and continue to serve our country, is you just soldier on. But so
yeah,
many times we've been on the front line throughout our lives, but yet we still are just expected to soldier on. But we
sure.
have to remember to come back and deal with what we've been through, right? So, was there any kind of a debriefing after you had to go out on a job like that? And as leaders and in these highly compassionate things as a comparative to the journalism, we often don't take the time to sit down and really process and think about what we've just navigated our way through yet again. And it's a difficult situation. And so that we can reduce the amount of trauma that it's not the what happens to you, it's what happens. How did it affect you physically, mentally, spiritually from the trauma, right? It's like what is the residual impact of that that you still carry today? And getting rid or shedding that layer is important as I think as well. Processing through it. And we
Well, I
become
mean,
masters at it, I
yeah.
think.
I mean, for both of you, I mean, you can surely appreciate this is, I can't remember some days what I had for breakfast, but I sure do remember walking around the crime scene of my friend being shot in the head outside of my building. Like, um,
You probably remember what you had for breakfast that day,
yeah,
right? That
maybe,
particular, like,
maybe.
yeah.
And then I went on TV and somebody in a position of power said, because the internet, I don't think had really been invented at that point, but I was told, whatever you do, don't cry. And meanwhile, my friend had been murdered in our parking lot. And like, whatever you do, don't cry.
mm,
I think we've come a long way from that.
yeah,
I would hope.
I hope so.
Yeah, we're all human.
Yeah.
Well, on that note,
Not all superheroes wear
oh
Yay!
my,
capes.
not all superheroes wear capes, Laurel, as usual. Pleasure to have you on. I hope that people got value and if contribute to our conversation, put something in the, comments on YouTube or whatnot. Laurel's got her nose
I'm gonna
back.
do it. I'm borrowing this from a friend. It goes back to Patch Adams. But you're both
Ho,
smiling.
ho, ho.
Oh, no. Could be Rudolph, could be just be happy, smile. Sorry, I
Hey,
interrupted you.
Laurel, when can people vote for your sexy boob photo for breast cancer?
And that's not about the winning, it's about showing up for other
Ah,
women.
I know.
But you can vote for free. It's on my Facebook and whatnot, or the Fabulous Over 40. It's on my LinkedIn.
Laurel
Share away,
Gillespie,
ladies.
you sexy, sexy woman, you.
Oh, thank you. You too. Back at you, ladies.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like and subscribe on YouTube. Get notified to see our next episodes, podcasts, or anywhere you enjoy podcasts. Laurel, thanks for coming on. Until next time on the Inner Shift, we'll see you then.